All right, I am here for Severe MMA with the prospect himself, Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel, how's it going?
All good here, mate. Thank you. Obviously gutted, that the last fight didn't go ahead, but I'm breathing, I'm living, I'm healthy. So yeah, we'll move on, get on to the next one. So
Absolutely. So if we can just start there, actually, I don't want to go over old ground. I don't want to make this a whole rigmarole, but obviously you made weight. You got down to your contracted weight. You turned up on fight week, and your opponent couldn't make it for whatever reason of illness. I think my first question is, how emotionally does that affect you? Bearing in mind you've put in an entire camp of your life and all the commitments and dedications that you've done to get to that position. Mm-hmm. You then get told you don't have an opponent. They're trying to find you an opponent, and then you get told you don't have an opponent at all. Like, how does that mentally affect you?
The best word I could say to describe it is heartbreaking, especially when I've been out already for a year and a half with injuries, back-to-back injuries. So all I wanted to do was get in there and compete. Money aside, obviously this is my job as well, so we have to get paid, etc. Money aside, I love competing. This is what I love to do, and I've been training for a fight, and it's not gone ahead. So, it does hurt, especially when going into that fight, I felt like it's time for me to make a statement here. I've been out for a long time. I feel like people are forgetting me. Now's to make the statement. I'm ready. I'm in the best possible shape that I could be in. And the fight doesn't go ahead. And again, it's nothing to do with me. I felt, it was a weird one. I felt the week after that, I felt almost, what's the word? Guilty, like it was my fault, and bearing in mind I never got offered any replacement opponents. It was far too late, medicals, etc. People wouldn't been able to get it in time. But yeah, I don't know, the week after was a weird one because I wanted a day off from training and just thought, right, I'll go and have some food, and I just felt guilty eating it. I didn't feel like I could, there was nothing to celebrate. But my friends and my family just tried to say, look, Nate, if you did everything you possibly could, it's not your fault. Go and relax, go and eat some food and stuff. But yeah, it was a hard one. It was it was a hard one to deal with. But as I say, I'm healthy. We move on and move on to the next one.
Right, and I think there's a couple of points to take out of that. I think the most prominent point is obviously Davy Grant offered his services for the fight, right? But as you just said, he wasn't able to get in medical checks and COVID tests and all that stuff in time, I'm sure, although he was in London at the time.
Well, this is a funny one, right?
Okay.
So he put the tweet out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was early morning. It might have been like 7
Yes.
So straight away, right? Hold on, I'll get my Instagram up. Because a lot of people said to me, "Oh, why are you not fighting Davy Grant?" Blah blah blah. Bear with me. So at 5 to 7 a.m. I said, I'm totally fine here, right? I've sent that message. I said, I'm totally with fighting Saturday night, mate. Have you heard anything? I'll even meet you at a catchweight if you need it at such short notice. No reply. Nothing, right? Didn't reply to me. So then my managers contacted the UFC, said, look, Davy Grant's asking for the fight. Can we get that? Davy Grant's got a fight in 6 weeks or something. He's already contracted. He was walking around at 72 kilos. So that tweet, I don't know if it was right, let's just get a little bit of a thing going. But to anyone that said to me, oh, you could have fought Davy Grant, bullshit. So
right.
Yeah, I've had a few of those. And it is quite frustrating because, it's not down to me. And a few people were saying to me, fight, Ilya Chapora's brother. The guy's 3-1. The UFC ain't going to sign him. I don't get to make the decision for the UFC to sign people. I don't get to say, hey, UFC, I want this guy. He's 3-1. I don't think any of the guys that he beat had winning records. I think they were more losses than wins. That's not my problem. I'll fight anyone that the UFC give me. But just because I need an opponent doesn't mean that I get to decide who I fight. So that's my rant over.
No, I think that's a really important highlight to sort of the things that go on behind the scenes, right? So me and the other SevereMMA guys, we were recording a sort of a live preview show for the London card, right? And live, we heard the tweet come out, right? And if anyone wants to go back and look at that, watch my reaction. I was head on hands. I was so excited at the idea of a Davy Grant Nathaniel Wood fight, right? That would have been an absolute banger.
Mhm.
Now, the really interesting thing, as you say, is obviously the logistics behind it are that there are plenty of protocols and things to go through for Davy to even get the fight contracted and medicals and everything else. But like you say, for you, the guy in the middle, who, as and we'll get onto the guilt thing now, who's done literally nothing wrong, right? You've done everything in camp. You've made the weight. You're happy to get on the scale at 135 and you've no opponent. And then now you've got a guy who's saying, I'll fight you, even though the possibility of that is very minimal. And then you've got fans onto you like, oh, you're ducking him, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing the next thing. When obviously, like, there's a lot that goes into these things, right? So yeah, I mean, I hear you 100%. And on the guilt thing, like, that's a very interesting and very honest assessment, really, is why do you feel that you had that guilt? Why were you guilty?
Because I didn't. So obviously I didn't fight, so I didn't lose, but I didn't win. Do you know what I mean? I didn't go out there and do what I trained 12 weeks to do. You know, everything, all the time my coaches had put into me, all the dieting, you know, all the sacrifices made during camp. I didn't get to go out there and show it. You know, I had people turning up with tickets to watch me fight. Now, regardless of the reason why I can't fight, I'm not fighting. I'm not there to put on the show for people, which I promised to them that I was going to do. Again, it's not in my control. So, you know, I guess it's like, well, you got nothing to feel guilty about, but it doesn't take away that feeling of, oh man, you know, I don't deserve to go and eat all these donuts because I haven't got to put my work in. You know, I haven't been able to show people the sacrifices that I've made. And again, you know, I'm just pissed off really that it never happened. But, you know, it is what it is. It is the fight game. But I just feel like, you know, luck's not on my side at the moment, especially being out, you know, for a long time with injuries. So, you know, the best thing I can do is just stay in the gym, stay motivated, and yeah, you know, I just have to put on an even better show come next fight.
Sure. And onto the topic of next fight, and equally the dieting and stuff. You mentioned recently that you're going to go up to 145. Talk me through that decision, if you don't mind.
So I've always, weight cutting for me has always been a struggle. It's one of those things where I love to fight. I don't get anxiety over fighting. I never stress about, you know, getting in there, competing against the best in the world. But I do stress a lot with weight cuts. You know, they're not easy. Anyone that's done one will know that. I also have struggle to make to cut water weight. So for me to cut about 3.5 kilos would probably take me around, Ivor, hey, sorry mate, window cleaners here.
That's absolutely
Ivor,
fine.
yeah, get down. Right, he might bark if he doesn't.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
For me, it takes a lot longer than most people do to cut water weight. You know, I've done tests, I've had nutritionists on board, I've done everything you possibly could. I've done all of the water loading, all of the tricks in the trade, etc. For me, it just takes so long. Now, that picture that I put up on Instagram where I've got all the veins, you know, going through my body, etc. I was still 6 kilos out. And looking at that, you know, you can see there's not much left to lose. And I still had 6 kilos to go, you know, which is scary. You know, I had a lot of people putting comments going, oh, he looks like death and, you know, whatever. But it does go through my mind where I think, man, this isn't healthy, you know, and I want to fight 4 to 5 times a year. Am I willing to put my body through that 4 to 5 times a year? I'm not. So, you know, I'm doing what I think everyone in the UFC should do. Go up a weight. You know, I'm not going to cut as much weight as I am used to doing. I'm going to be a hell of a lot healthier. And you know what? If my opponent has 2-3 kilos on me, yeah, have it. You know, if they beat me, then I'll say that they were the better man. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, he beat me because he had 2 kilos or 3 kilos. You know, I believe in my skill set. And I believe that as a martial artist, I should be able to handle myself, whether someone's got 2 or 3 kilos on top of me. So, yeah, you know, that's the reason. I want to be active. I want to fight 4 to 5 times a year, not twice a year because the weight cuts are so hard. And they don't even happen sometimes, you know. Like the other day, I did all of that for what?
Yeah.
You know, I still got paid, you know. So obviously that was the main thing. But I didn't get to fight. What was the point in me killing myself for 10 weeks? My guy didn't even show, you know. So for me, I'm going to be a happier fighter. I've got the speed advantage, obviously going up at 145, and yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. And now, you know, it's just I think it's just time to make that move and, you know, look after my body a little bit better.
Sure. And like if we can dive a little bit further into the weight cutting, I'm a massive advocate for abandoning weight cutting as much as humanly possible. I think it's a drastic detriment to the fighter just generally, then in terms of metabolism, in terms of recovery, in terms of their long-term health. And obviously if you're getting into a fist fight with another human, another highly trained human, and your brain hasn't had time to rehydrate, you're maximizing the amount of long-term damage to your brain, right?
Yep.
If I could ask, and maybe this is a difficult question to answer, but why did you cut to 135? What, you know, for your career in amateur and pro, why did you make that cut?
So I've always been a bantamweight. So when I first started and I was a semi-pro fighter 10 years ago.
Sure, a while ago.
61 kilos. So I would walk in the fight, weigh in on the day, fight that night. You know, as time went on, I started to grow, you know, I become older. I was walking around at 66 kilos. So, okay, you know, I'll cut down to 61, not a problem. Year later, I'm walking around at 68, 70, 71. Now there's been times where I like, not often, this is me, you know, coming back from holiday, etc., out of shape. I'm not walking around at 75 kilos. Well, that's not healthy. You know, you shouldn't be cutting that much weight. But my brain has always just said, oh, we cut to bantamweight. That's what we do. I ask, you know, other fighters, they do the same thing. If anything, I'm not a massive bantamweight. So, you know, I've stood next to Adrian Sterling before, and he's a lot bigger. You know, he's thicker, but he probably can cut weight a lot easier than I can. He's obviously been in the wrestling growing up in high school. So, you know, maybe he's just better at it than I am, and some people can, you know, just get on with it. But for me, it's just hard. You know, it really takes its toll on my body, and I haven't got much fat to lose. So as I say, 6 kilos out, a lot of people usually have got a bit of fat to go. I'm shredded. You know, there really is nothing left for me to lose except for muscle weight and water weight. And I'm just sick and tired of it. So, you know, what's the saying? You know, be the change that you want to see. And I'd love everyone to just shake hands and say, look, guys, let's stop cutting so much weight and just fight at our natural weight. Well, I'm going to be the guy to do that. So, you know, if people want to keep cutting weight and, you know, just desperately trying to have that weight advantage, then so be it, you know, but I'm tired of it. So, yeah, you know, I'm going to go at 145 now, and I'm pretty confident that with my speed, power, etc., you know, I'm going to do just fine at that weight category.
Yeah, I think you're a very, very smart man. I wish that fighters would do that more often, because I think, you know, a ton of the guys that you have competed against at 135, they probably walk around at the same weight, right? They probably walk around at 72, 73, maybe. I mean, you're right. Aljo is massive for the weight class. So he probably walks around even higher than that, right? And yeah, if there was a gentleman's agreement where you said, I'm 73 kilos now, and let's say Aljamain says I'm 75 kilos, you'd be like, sound, we'll do under 75 then. And that's it, you know? But yeah, I'll pivot slightly to you being a trailblazer, right? And that's, I wanted to ask from the outside perspective, maybe you'll have a different opinion, but it feels as though from a fighter, like from the hierarchy of fighters, you're sort of the team captain of GB Top Team now, right? Obviously there's Brad and Ash at the very top, but really from a fighter perspective, you're the team captain. And I wanted to sort of ask you to take a moment of reflection from way back when there were conversations, early interviews with you, when you were saying that how you met Brad, and then you'd meet Brad and he'd drive you all the way across London to get to training, and then all the way back, and you'd have the conversations with him in the car, and to now where GB Top Team's just moved into a brand new facility, it's going from strength to strength, and you're sort of team captain.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It's weird, because it's only the other day when I realized, like, I've had like 26 fights. I'm like, oh, I'm a young veteran, you know. I'm only 28 years old, so I've still got, I'd like to think, another 10 years in me, and I've already had, you know, more fights than a lot of these UFC guys have in their careers. So it's a good feeling, but also a little bit it's like weight on your shoulders, you know, 'cause
Sure.
you kind of feel responsible. I feel like, oh, you know, I've got to help these guys build up. But I'm also like, hey, no, I'm the fighter still. You know, I still need to train. So, you know, I try not to think about it too much. You know, obviously I help all the guys in the gym, especially if they need me. And, you know, I like to give as much advice as I possibly can, because a lot of them are trying to follow my footsteps, you know, trying to get to the UFC, etc. So I guess I'm just trying to do what Brad did for me back in the day when he was competing. But I'm obviously a lot younger than when I met them, when Brad met me. So yeah, you know, I try not to think about it too much, but yeah, you know, it's been a long old journey, and I've still got plenty more in me. So yeah, you know, another 10 years is what I hope to get out of this sport.
Right. And if we could dive in slightly to one of the points you made there, which is, you know, you do understand that, you know, you're the UFC fighter. That's where everyone's trying to get to. And there is a weight on your shoulders for that. There's a weight of pressure and, I guess, expectation. How do you balance being the guy that's sort of been there and done what a lot of these guys want to do? Now, obviously, you haven't reached the potential that you've set out for yourself, and that's fine. That's a personal goal. But how do you balance being the mentor, if you will, alongside still trying to be the fighter, being a student in a class and just being there to train?
Just staying humble, you know, you just got to stay humble and learn from everyone. So, you know, if whether the guy's an amateur or whether the guy is a high level pro, just learn from everyone you possibly can. You know, I try not to think to myself, oh, the guy I'm sparring is not in the UFC, I should be beating him. You know, I've got guys in the gym that give me a hell of a hard time, and then I'll learn from them. You know, we also have guys, we've got Robert Whiteford over, who's, you know, older than me. He was in the UFC many, many years ago. So he's got all that experience. We had Mark Diakhese, and I learn from them, you know, and that's what I want to continue to do. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a martial artist, and I'll be training even when my career is over. So, you know, I think you just got to learn from everyone, and everyone's got their better disciplines. So, you know, we've got guys that train just jiu-jitsu who would smash me in jiu-jitsu. So I learned from them for jiu-jitsu. You know, I go away and then maybe train with a boxer, you know, who would smash me in a boxing fight. And then I would just put the pieces together. And yeah, you know, I'm not a prima donna. You know, I don't ever sit there and put myself on a pedestal. So, you know, I try and just stay as humble as I can and just learn from everyone and everything.
And on that, on the point of putting the bits together, I think, so for me personally, as an analyst, and if I can call myself that, I guess, but like as somebody that sort of covers MMA and watches it, one of the most important points I think in a fighter, especially in the new era of MMA, is that it's the transitionary phases, right? How do you transition from ranges of striking into clinch work, into grappling? And then specifically when it hits the deck, how are you transitioning them between striking on the ground and positional dominance and positional advancement? And that's something that I've found specifically, especially in your run in the UFC, like everyone was calling you a striker in Cage Warriors, right? And then you come out and submit everyone in the UFC in your first couple of bouts. Like, how do you, and again, maybe this is a difficult question, but how do you put the pieces together, right? Specifically in your training and in your fighting, because obviously if you're doing sport jiu-jitsu, right, there are going to be lads that are going to be doing things to you that are not applicable to MMA in any way, shape, or form. So how do you take those things and adapt them into one sort of homogenous game for MMA?
I guess it's just training more MMA classes, MMA specific, you know, because obviously we do our jiu-jitsu class, we have our boxing class, etc., etc. But then we have our MMA sparring, we have our MMA grappling, where you can actually put it together. So it's, okay, we're going to do jiu-jitsu, but now we can actually strike as well. Mm-hmm. So I guess it all just comes down to your camp and your training. And back in my career, when I very first started out, way before I met Brad, I didn't do that. You know, I was really good striker, really good grappling in grappling, or really good striking in striker. And I didn't put the pieces together. And that's what's important now. You know, you've got to learn that at the end of the day, no matter how good I want my grappling to be or my striking, you've got to put them together, because we fight mixed martial arts, you know. And that's what I think is crazy, that people think that I'm just a striker. You know, I did start with grappling. I just prefer to strike. You know, I find that more fun, and I think that's what fans want to see. So, yeah, you know, just train more MMA and just make sure you got the right coaches and right team, right teammates. And, you know, they will help you put that, you know, puzzle piece together.
Right. And I think that's something that's incredibly interesting too, the relationship that you have with Brad and Ash, right? Like, can you speak a little bit to building a team essentially? Because and again, maybe this is me speaking out of turn, but it does feel like the relationship that the three of you have had and the success that you've had together has really allowed GB Top Team to grow. I mean, Brad is an absolutely massive name in the MMA world. Ash is a massive name. I mean, more, in my opinion, in the jiu-jitsu world than in the MMA world, but obviously he reached some good success in MMA as well. But in order for coaches to elevate themselves as coaches, they need a product, right? A student. And it seems as though you were the first one to reach high heights. Like, can you speak a little bit on how that relationship has sort of furthered everything, both personally for you and for the gym?
So first thing, you got to be prepared to sacrifice. You know, I had to travel an hour and a half to get to the gym to train with those guys. You know, obviously I thought, right, who's the best people in the country that I could be training with within reason? You know, I can't travel 5 hours somewhere every day. So, you know, I had to travel an hour and a half to the gym, hour and a half back every day just to go and train with Brad, Ashley, etc. And it's about surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, people that can teach you. You know, people like Brad was, at the time when I started training with him, I think he was number 5 in the world, and that was at my weight class. So, you know, who better to train with than that guy? The thing is as well, that it's so important. You've got to have a relationship with your coaches. You've got to get on. You know, you could be the best coach in the world, but if you're an arsehole, I'm not going to get on with you, and vice versa. You know, if you're a fighter and you want to go and train with these coaches, and no matter how good you are, if you are just not a nice person and you don't get on with your coach isn't going to want to train you. So, you know, fortunately for me, I get on with Brad and Ashley like a house on fire. You know, I class them as family now. I wouldn't even class them as friends. You know, they're my family. So, you know, I think that always helps. So yeah, you know, there's no one that I'd rather be in my corner than, you know, Ashley, Brad, and then obviously I've got my dad as well. So
of course,
I'm spoiled when it comes to coaches.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to your character also. I mean, given this interview in the questions that we've asked, it's obvious that you're not a fighter that hides their emotions and that hides their relationships. And I think that in a lot of ways that will elevate your game of fighting if you're, you know, emotionally aware and allow yourself to connect with these people and build these sort of tight-knit relationships. And I think that that's something that the MMA promotes a lot of the reason, right? Like, you're in there every day grafting, not necessarily with Brad and Ashley, but with everyone, with the training partners you have, and it builds a sort of camaraderie, and that's something that you really see. Like, obviously I've not visited GB Top Team yet, but, you know, from the Instagram posts and from everything, it really feels like a very, very tight-knit group of people. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, it's just, you know, we have got people in the gym who potentially I haven't met, you know, like people come in the evening classes. The gym's huge now. So there's people that I'm like, okay, I've never met this guy before in my life. But, you know, the team has been together for years now. We just haven't had that hub. And there's no sport like MMA that will bring people together. So, you know, fortunately, as I say, you know, I've got a good team around me and I've got good people. There are people in the gym, in my team, should I say, that I click with better than others. And yeah, you know, I think that's the key. When you can click with people and you have good, let's call it social skills, it makes life so much easier. You know, people want to train with you. They want to help you, you know, to the point where I could ring up my friend and he's also my training partner. So I'll be like, "You all right, mate, do you want to go and do some training and then we'll go out for a bit of food or something?" And, you know, that makes life more enjoyable because they're your work colleagues, let's say. And if you get on with your work colleagues, you know, it makes life a lot more easy. So yeah, you know, the team now, I think we gel very well together. Everyone's got the right mindset. Everyone is on the same journey. Let's say there's not many people in our team that don't want to be in the UFC. You know, everyone in our team is training to be the UFC champion of the world. So, you know, I think that always helps when, you know, you've all got the same goals.
I'm going to pivot slightly to something a little bit more tertiary, and that's the man that made an appearance a little bit earlier, Ivor, your dog, right? Like, if you could speak to somebody to a little, oh, he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing.
Doesn't leave my side, mate, honestly.
Yeah, and like this is something I wanted to speak to. Like, you know, you look at the way that he behaves around you. You look at the training regimens that you go through, and there's a lot of parallels, right, between the way that a fighter would train and the way that you're training the dog, right? And we've already spoken about the relationships that you're building. There is no stronger relationship than a man and his dog, right? Like, can you talk a little bit about how Ivor has sort of changed your perception on life?
Do you know what it is? It's going to sound so cringy, but that's my boy, man. That's my baby. So I think now that because I have him, it's like, I don't know, I'm not the main priority. You know, I know he's not a child, but that's how I kind of see him. So when I get up in the morning, it's, I've got to go feed the dog. You know, I've got to get out of bed to go and walk the dog. And I've got a responsibility now for another living creature. And yeah, it sounds crazy, but I have really grown up just by having a dog, because now I'm responsible for that dog's life. If I don't give him water or I don't feed him, he'll die. If I don't train him, if I don't, you know, teach him what's right and wrong, he's going to be a horrible dog. And yeah, you know, I'm proud of him because I know he's a dog, but man, he's a good soul. You know, he's so friendly, he's so sociable. And he's very protective. So that's exactly how I'd want to bring my kids up when I eventually have them. And yeah, you know, it's been fun. He's keeping me on my toes. Don't get me wrong, he's a little shit sometimes, but you know, so was I when I was a kid. So yeah, it's a bit mad that I'm talking about my dog like he's my baby, but he is, you know. So
I don't think it is mad at all. I mean, I have one as well, and I echo your sentiments, right? But it's like you're right that you are responsible for another living human, and yes, they're not a child in all of the complex facets of a child, but in some ways I would argue they're a little bit more difficult than that, because they can't speak English and you can't teach them to speak English, right? You have to have a connection where you are able to read their body language and they're able to communicate with you non-verbally, or sometimes verbally, right, if they could bark or whatever. But seating positions and the way they look at you and things they're asking for, you become in tune with their personality, right? And like you've just said, you absolutely build a relationship with them that they're effectively, they are your child. You're teaching them right and wrong. You're teaching them behavior that you like and behavior that you don't like. And yeah, man, I think you're absolutely spot on.
And you know, it is as well, like when I leave the house and I come back, he sits by the window, and when I pull up and he's there at the window and I can see how buzzing he is to see me, it's a good feeling, man. You know, I know how to him, I am his world. I am everything. And, you know, I guess it's the same with when you have kids, but you know, kids can be like, you know, I'm going to be naughty today, or, you know, I'm not going to come and see, I'm going to stay on my PlayStation or whatever. But to him, I'm his life. So, yeah, you know, it's a good feeling when I knock on the door or open the door or whatever, and he comes bolting to see me. So, yeah, you know.
I couldn't agree. I really couldn't agree more. And I'm going to, again, pivot slightly to one of your stable mates and somebody that I am quite high on, and that's Cavanagh, right? Now, when I watched his fight at Cage Warriors, take away the devastating finish, one of the scariest finishes I've seen live, actually, because the fella that he finished was out for a long time, and if I remember correctly, wasn't able to leave the cage of his own accord, and that's always a scary thing to see. But maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but he looked like a mini Nathaniel Wood in there. He really did. The way he moves, the way he slips shots, the way he throws his shots was very Nathaniel Wood-esque.
That's it. He's mate, he's something special. So I've been telling people for a very long time. I was telling people in the crowd, I had a couple of, I think the guy was Welsh, so I had a couple of Welsh, and like, yeah, our boy's gonna smash yours. And I was like, okay, cool, like we'll see. And obviously he come out looking like a small little kid going to school or something, but you know, he's a freak of nature. So yeah, keep an eye on him, because 100% he's going to be in the UFC soon, and without a doubt, I believe that he's you know, going to be flyweight champion of the world soon.
Yeah, he looked. The thing that impressed me the most, I think, is for a person of such a young age and such a young fighting experience, like overall, the ability to be calm in there and the ability to make the right decisions was just brilliant. And you know, we've already spoken about transitionary phases, but I think being able to be calm in a firefight, being able to be selective in your shots, being able to make the right decisions when things are getting a little bit crazy in there, is the sign of a serious prospect, and he seemed to have that in spades. So yeah, I'm very excited to watch his career.
Yeah, and similar to how I said about myself, he's a veteran and he's young. You know, he's been in this game for a long time. He was fighting, I think, when he was like 13.
Sure.
You know, if you see it, you'll see a fight of him. I think it was on UFC MMA at the time, and it was big gloves boxing, K1 in the cage, and the gloves were bigger than his head. So yeah, you know, he's got a hell of a lot of experience behind him, and you know, at his age, it's just so exciting to see where he'll be in 10 years' time.
For sure. And we'll wrap it up on this, and that's, we're talking of moving to 145. Hopefully the weight cut is a lot easier on your body. Hopefully it's a lot easier on your camps, and you can get through those camps and have some more enjoyment. Who do you want at 145? If you could pick anyone, I know this is a difficult question. I know it's not really in your hands, but if there was a couple of names that you'd be looking at, who would those be?
I'd like to fight Andre Feely. I think that would be a good.
Oof, that's a banger. Yeah.
And as well, would be an absolute honor to fight him, Cub Swanson. He's one of the OGs. So, you know, I was a big fan of him, and it would be an absolute honor to fight him. So, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love both of those fights. I think my initial reaction is I think the Andre Feely fight would probably allow us to see a little bit more of your game. I think the Cub Swanson fight, all no disrespect to Cub Swanson, but I don't think that's a great styles matchup for Cub Swanson. Somebody that's quick, somebody that fights inside, somebody that can grapple, somebody that hits very, very hard. For Cub at this time, I don't think that's a great styles matchup, but I love the Andre Feely fight. That's a great fight.
Yeah. As I say, I'll fight anyone the UFC give me. So
sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your future.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.